Greg Byrne's been the athletic director at Alabama for the last 7 years, and he's had a pretty good run. Seeing multiple national championships be won, countless SEC titles be brought back to Tuscaloosa, a slew of number one recruiting classes, and of course, the handful of players selected on day one of the NFL draft. But he's never had to make a game-changing decision in his tenure until today. Nick Saban is out, and someone must pick up the pieces as the new heir apparent of the seven-time national champion and greatest to ever do it. Who are the top candidates to reside in Tuscaloosa for 2024? Let's talk about it. But if you are new here, welcome on into the channel. My name is Cole Thompson. I'm a radio show host based in Houston, and I talk college football daily. So if this is the type of content you enjoy, simply because the clock has struck 0 on 2023, does not mean we are stopping content from flowing onto your BuzzFeed. So make sure you hit the subscribe button down below to keep up with everything going on in coaching searches, the transfer portal, any fallout with this now Nick Saban news, and a ton of other content. Tell your friends, your family, your mortal enemies, your best of bros, college football aficionados, and Alabama faithful everywhere about this channel, because we are on the race to become the #1 YouTube show talking college football daily. Go ahead and subscribe to me on Twitter and social media at Mr. Cole Thompson. That way, conversations surrounding our favorite sport never have to stop flowing. Alabama is making a change. For the first time since 2007, Nick Saban will not be residing the sidelines at Bryant-Denny Stadium, and it is going to be different. The entire world of college football is going to be different. We can just throw that out there, and it was going to be different whether Nick came back or not, simply because 2 new teams are coming to the SEC, 4 new teams are going to the Big Ten, 8 new teams are joining the college football playoff run every season, and so the world as we know it in college football was going to change. There's an old saying, you never want to be the guy to replace the guy. And go ahead and do me a favor. Go back and look at Steve Spurrier. Anybody remember who replaced him at Florida when he decided to go ahead and call it quits or go to the NFL? Yeah, Ron Zook. I'm sure you all knew that name. So replacing a legend is something that is very challenging to do, and almost it always seems like you're destined to fail. But make no mistake, the way that we view Nick Saban and the way that other coaches view Nick Saban, there's the respect factor. But for us as fans and for us as those on the outside, we say it is impossible to replicate the type of impact that Saban made during his tenure. For coaches, they're saying to themselves, I can do that. And there's a handful of coaches who have that alpha dog mentality and that persona of I am #1 that actually believe right now, if I were to go toe-to-toe against Nick Saban, you give me a week to game plan, I would kick his ass 6 ways into the sun. And so that's the type of guy that's going to be taken over in Tuscaloosa for 2024, hopefully leading Alabama back to the college football playoff, if not to even grandeur expectations than Saban could ever have imagined in the brand new world where NIL and the transfer portal reign supreme. But who are the top candidates for the job? That's what this video is all about. Let's go ahead and knock out some of the sleeper picks that I don't think are actually going to be in the running, but it would be interesting. #1, Marcus Freeman. The guy has been able to transform Notre Dame into a factory when it comes to the recruiting trail. What he's been able to establish with dominance, building relationships, I think would really work down in Tuscaloosa. And he's a defensive-minded guy. Defense wins you championships, and defenses set the tone in the SEC. Should be in the running. Don't think he gets the phone call. Next up, Urban Meyer. He's not coming out of retirement. I know that there will be some people out there that will say, well, what about Urban? Well, what about Urban? Urban is not going to be taking a job anytime soon. Even though I do think if you wanted a 2-year rental, that may be the best phone call you could make. But it's very clear he's happy on the television desk. He's going to be content doing that. Another one that's a really big wild card, but it would make sense simply based off of the structure and the way that you coach, Mike Vrabel. He's looking for a job right now. The guy recently was let go by the Tennessee Titans after 6 seasons. He isn't a disciple of Nick Saban, but he did learn from Bill Belichick when he was playing in New England. I would have to imagine Belichick, Saban, kind of correlate with each other. I'm pretty sure that they would see eye to eye on certain passages that you look for in Tuscaloosa. Physicality is always something that we talk about with Titans defenses. That's what they were for about 5 years. Last season, really kind of a miss year overall. It's ultimately why they decided to make a switch. But if you had that type of persona down in Tuscaloosa, you bring in the right coordinators alongside him, I think it would actually make a lot of sense. And last, and I don't think it happens at all, but I'm at least going to throw it out there because you can never say never in the world of college football. Ryan Day. Ryan Day was born on third base to many people in Columbus, many people in the college football world, but let's keep a buck. The guy's been able to lead his team to multiple top 10 finishes. He's gone at least 10 double-digit wins every year except for 2020, where he led his team to a national championship, countless college football playoff appearances, top 5 recruiting classes all the time. He's at least, I think, going to be mentioned in chatter. Does not mean anything. All right. Actual candidates now. Number 1, Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning was a coach that got his career started off at Alabama. Then at one point, Saban actually wanted to hire him back to his staff, but Kirby Smart got there first. And Smart turned him into one of the best architects of establishing roster control. The thing that stands out about Oregon that really is just completely different than anything else out there is it was a Frankenstein monster. And where did he learn that? From a Nick Saban disciple and from Nick Saban when he first got started in coaching. He had an offensive line built for the Big Ten, weapons built for the Pac-12, linebackers and running backs that would have found fortitude in the SEC, defensive backs that could have played in the Pac-12 or in the SEC or in the Big Ten, and a quarterback that came from the SEC and completely revitalized his career. Simply put, people at Auburn are pretty pissed off that Dan Lanning got the best version of Bo Nix, even though he was the pride of the Plains. And he's won. Went 9-3 his first year, top 10 finish. Next season, he went 11-1 during the regular season, 12-2 to finish off the year. Top 15 recruiting classes in both years. Top 10 recruiting class this past year. Oh, and he's young and up and coming. A lot of people may worry about the number of games he's coached, but let me make this clear. If you are looking for the long-term solution, the first phone call you make is to Lanning. And the second phone call you make is to Lanning, and the third phone call, and the fourth phone call. And yes, Nike has money, and Nike has, of course, everything that could be offered to Lanning, but they don't have the history and the repertoire of Alabama, which ultimately is why this is an open market. By the way, every coach that you think is untouchable is 100% touchable for a place like Alabama. Yes, SEC, I understand how that sounds. Please don't go ahead and put me on the sidelines. Anyways, Lanning would be a good fit. Lanning would be a long-term fit. And even if it took a year or two to establish that, he has a baseline of understanding recruiting in the South. He knows what the culture is like at major milestones and major institutions like Georgia and like Alabama. And he's a winner. And winners simply win. And if you have that, you're always going to be a name that be reckoned with. Number 2, Steve Sarkisian at Texas. Again, another certain feel. Texas is a great job. No, strike that. Texas is an amazing job, in my opinion. And the main reason why is because of what the resources are built there, what is established in terms of culture, in persona, and more importantly, in a world of NIL, you will have the boosters wearing the burnt orange and white, funneling money into the Texas One Fund. But it's, again, Alabama. There are a slew of jobs that surpass a team like Texas, and Alabama is on that short list. He has a relationship with Greg Byrne, worked there from 2017, then 2019, 2020, led Alabama to 2 top 5 scoring offenses, led them to a national championship bout, put up insane numbers, turned Devonta Smith into the first Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver since 1991 when Desmond Howard did it, turned Mac Jones from a game manager into a first-round pick. Najee Harris went ham his 2 years underneath the regime. The offense drastically turned the corner, and that up-tempo passing attack that was missing for a little while ended up coming back and it was even stronger than before. That's why Steve Sarkisian is going to be in the running. And of course, you have to look at the way that he's built his roster. He got a second chance underneath Nick Saban, learned a ton, took a couple pages out of that book and rewrote the book of Sark down in Austin. And that team is better prepared for the SEC because of it. Now, I think Chris Del Conte is going to do everything in his power to make sure that that doesn't happen. You don't build a roster and finish with a top 5 recruiting class back-to-back years and watch your guy go across enemy sidelines, and now he becomes project number 1 and major milestone to surpass. But if they aren't able to come to a deal, and if Greg Byrne's able to offer the right contract, what will reside in the landslide of money coming over in NIL funds is absolutely going to be at least tempting for Steve Sarkisian to listen to. So I think he's on the short list. I don't know if he will get the job, but I absolutely think that if there is a phone call to be made, one is coming to the 40 acres. Next up, Lane Kiffin. Okay, I get it. I get that Lane beats to his own drum. And I know there is a ton of Alabama fans out there that don't want Lane Kiffin simply because of his attitude, simply because of his repertoire, his persona, the way he ruffles the wrong feathers. But you know what? Maybe that's what you need. You are the bad guys of college football in most eyes. You are the villains of the sport. You have tarnished and tainted any expectations for anybody out there to ever feel like they have a shot of winning. Embrace being the bad guy. And if you want a bad guy, you get Lane Kiffin. Let's just go ahead and look back at Kiffin's career when he was at Alabama. Led his team to a college football playoff appearance, led his team to a national championship, led his team to another college football playoff appearance. So he did some good things during his time when he was calling the shots down in Tuscaloosa. He's established himself as one of the best recruiters in college football. He's established himself as one of the best vocal leaders in college football. And he's coming off of a season to where even I think Ole Miss fans were shocked. First 11-win program in history of the sport. That's saying something. And then you look at what he's been doing on the transfer portal. The guy is called the transfer portal king for a reason. It's not because he lands just some willy-nilly kids. It's because those kids end up becoming better because of it. And right now, you look at this team with Princely Umanmielen, you look at Tyler Barron, you look at Walter Nolan, Juice Wells, Trey Harris, and the countless other names that have surpassed and come on over to the Grove is why Ole Miss looks like a vital threat to actually win the SEC in 2024. So how do you take away the competition? You take it, actually. Literally, you take the competition and you supplant it down in Bryant-Denny Stadium. I know it sounds crazy to think that that would be an opportunity, but it absolutely is one. And it would be a damn good fit for Greg Byrne to at least make a phone call and see, hey, you know what? Maybe it's time for you to come home. I always kind of envisioned, and this is just something off the record that, most people probably don't know, but the whole rumors last year about Lane taking the job at Auburn, for anybody that doesn't understand, I can almost guarantee you whoever took the job, whoever was offered the job, had in their bylines, you were not allowed to take the job at Alabama. Like we will sue you. We will take all your money back. Your buyout would be ridiculous for Alabama simply because you don't want to lose a coach to your rival. And I think that partially, even though Lane was very content at Ole Miss, if that was any stipulation, that ultimately ended the conversation right then and there. So I think that, you always are waiting for the next big thing. The next big thing is Alabama. Next up, Dabo Swinney. Okay. Dabo does things his own way. Dabo does things and beats to his own drum, and Dabo is going to eventually be a dinosaur that is left in the past, but he's a winner. Plain and simple. I know this past year is probably going to say otherwise. I know that it feels like the game has kind of passed him up, but the man's a winner. And he established a culture and an identity simply because of what he learned when he was a walk-on player and later assistant coach during his time at Alabama. He's a native of the state. He knows the area. He understands the culture. And the guy has proven time and time again, you give me a roster that's good enough, I will turn it into something great. He is going to be on the short list. Do I think he takes it? Absolutely not. But do I think he is on the short list? Without question. Next up, Kalen DeBoer, Washington. You know what the best culture is? Winning. Simply put, winning, 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 winning. If you can win, you have established a great culture. And the only thing that you know about a guy like Kalen DeBoer is he can win. And he wins a lot, and he wins everywhere he goes, and he is highly successful at doing it. 2 years during his time in Seattle, Washington. He's 25-3, 11-2 his first season, 14-1 this season. Not to mention he has finished with the #1 passing offense. Last year he finished with a top 15 scoring offense and a top 10 passing offense. Turned Michael Penix Jr. into a Heisman-worthy caliber quarterback. Turned Rome Odunze into a Biletnikoff-worthy award-winning wide receiver. Turned countless players into 1,000-yard pass catchers. Implemented a style of play that just completely unraveled the entire Pac-12 and bought the culture in a time that nobody thought that it was going to happen. Jimmy Lake really turned this program into a cesspool of mediocrity in just 2 short seasons. And Kalen DeBoer slowly comes on in right after that era and immediately changes it for the better. Winners win. You want a winner, you call a winner. A winner like Kalen DeBoer is going to work in Tuscaloosa. Two more names for you just really fast. Mike Norvell at Florida State. I don't think he is going to get the job, but it wouldn't hurt to throw out some feelers and at least make a phone call. What he has done shows you that you can win both in recruiting and on the transfer portal trail. And a place like Florida State, it kind of sells itself. Place like Alabama, it sells itself. You'll be able to land 5 stars simply because of that big A and that SEC brand attached to your name. You'll be able to land transfers simply because of that big A and the SEC logo attached to your name. You're in a really, really good spot if you are a place like Florida State. And Norvell being able to turn a roster back-to-back years into 10-win seasons, nearly making the college football playoff. Yeah, you throw that team in there and you go ahead and say, he can make it work here in Tuscaloosa. Last name for you, it's a very wild card one, but it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if it does get done. Bill Belichick. Just come on. Why not? If he's going to get a phone call from Los Angeles, why would he not get a phone call from Tuscaloosa? You know that the writing is on the wall for him in Foxborough right now. There's a lot of speculation that Mike Vrabel left because there was a reason that he was going to get a job pretty soon after. So maybe Bill Belichick takes a book from his protege and says, you know what? I want to go down to Bryant Day Stadium. I think it'd be a lot of fun, just for me to be able to coach in the college game. Maybe that's just it. That's just me personally. But there you go. I think at the forefront runners for the job, without question, Lane Kiffin, Dan Lanning, Steve Sarkisian, Dabo Swinney. You got to throw Kalen DeBoer's name into the mix. Mike Norvell is going to be circling around, swimming around with the feelers. And there'll be a ton of other coaches that are considered. But change is coming to Tuscaloosa. Maybe it's for the best. Maybe it's not. But whether you like it or not, it was inevitable. And somebody is going to have to be the name to take over for Nick Saban. Here's the question. Do they surpass him, or do they crumble under the pressure of having to live up to replacing the GOAT? Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.